Take this. I don't need it anymore. I always was a good thief.
That you was. What's up, folks? This is Justin from Books, Bricks, and Boards. A couple weeks ago, I did a video on my top 5 mechanics that you should be stealing from other games for your D&D or other OSR game. And as I was going through my shelf, I noticed that I still had a lot more mechanics that I wanted to share on this subject. So today I'm going to do my second list of 5 mechanics that you should be stealing for your OSR or D&D game. So without any further ado, let's get into it. I don't know about you, but a lot of times I find myself trying to wedge the correct number of experience points into an adventure to get to the advancement level that I want the characters to be at, rather than it happening organically. And I've talked to a lot of DMs, and a lot of DMs kind of have a similar experience, or they just go with the milestone leveling, which is much more prevalent and common in today's games. Well, the Black Hack has a rather interesting solution to this, and it's kind of a in-between milestone and experience points, and they call it experiences. So I'm going to go to the Black Hack, page 13 here, and basically what it means is each time the characters do something that the GM considers to be significant, the examples they give: defeating a powerful named enemy, discovering the entrance of a newer, deeper dungeon, discovering magical items, so on and so forth, completing quests and things of that nature. They get an experience. So in order to level up, you have to have a number of experiences equal to your current level to be at the next level. And the only way to actually claim those experiences is through sharing them in the town square, as it were. And so for each experience that you share, you have to roll a d6, and then you take the highest one and you apply it to the carousing table, and then that further develops your character as you are leveling up. There's some interesting things on there. This could easily be expanded. You could make it a D12, D20, even a D100 table with a little bit of effort. But I like what they're getting at here. This is a very simple and effective way to add meaning, but also a little bit of structure to your player hero advancement. And this next mechanic is actually from one of my newfound favorite RPG developers, Luke Crane, and his Burning Wheel system. So all too many times we kind of have an idea of how much of a challenge that we want a particular obstacle to be for the players, and the dice will say yes or no when we don't want them to. And so a natural tendency is to present more similar challenges to attempt to get to the effect we originally desired. And it basically makes the undesired roll pointless, and it takes away from the meaning of the game and the impact of rolls in the future. So the Burning Wheel is an extremely simple mechanic with a memorable name: Let It Ride. So the gist of Let It Ride is that once you roll for an obstacle, unless there is a significant change in the conditions or the means which the adventurers have in overcoming it, you don't roll for that again. If you failed your search attempt, you missed it, you couldn't find it, you're going to have to figure out another solution. If you failed your move silently check, or more appropriately, if you made your move silently check, you don't have to roll it 10 more times to get past all the guards. You were silent that night, you were able to get past the guards. So this speeds up the game, but it does require the GM to have some backup ideas to plan for when things don't go his way. But Let It Ride is going to both speed up your game, and it is also going to make rolls more meaningful. And that's from The Burning Wheel by Luke Crane. I could have grabbed several different books for this next mechanic. I could have grabbed The Strange, I could have grabbed the Cipher System RPG, but I chose to grab Numenera because this is where this mechanic originated, but it spawned an entire line of RPGs. What I'm talking about here are ciphers. So ciphers are one-shot magical items with limitations on how many you can carry based upon your affinity for those types of items. They can be quite impactful, or they can just be kind of whimsical. Think of in a fantasy campaign as scrolls or potions, maybe one-shot wands or amulets that break after you use them. But if you pick up the Cipher System book or the Numenera book or the Strange book, there are hundreds of examples of very easily implemented ciphers that you can use. And what it does is it encourages players to use their limited magical items because they can only have so many. And it also encourages the GM to give out these fun and interesting gameplay elements. I'm a little bit of an old school GM, so I don't tend to give away a lot of magical items in my games, but this has really encouraged me to do that more because, you know, it's a one-shot item. Even something very powerful, if the players implement it, they don't have it anymore. And so, you know, it leaves them with dealing with the consequences without that thing to help them get past it. So ciphers are a great way to ensure that your players know that they're trying to create an interesting story, not hoard the best items to never use them. So, and that is why I would choose to implement ciphers into my OSR or D&D game. This next mechanic comes from the addendum for Sharp Swords and Sinister Spells. And if you have not checked out Sharp Swords and Sinister Spells by Old School Publishing, you definitely should give it a look. Even if you don't actually play the game, which the game is very interesting. It's like a rules-light Dungeon Crawl Classics Black Hack mashup with good reason. Diogo Nogueira, who wrote the game, actually has done a lot of work for the Brazilian side of Dungeon Crawl Classics, and also I know he's done some artwork for the American books as well. But for this mechanic, I'm going to talk a little bit more about magical items being spell books. So it would make sense that these dusty old ancient tomes that held the secrets to all the power that centuries old wizards had accumulated wouldn't just be easily picked up off the shelf and read. They would have some quirks to them, and they would probably be well protected. Well, in the Sharp Swords and Sinister Spells addendum, there's an optional rule for strange effects of ancient spell books. And we'll just say, let's say I rolled a 13. Let's see what a 13 would be on a D20. Every time the magic user casts a spell learned from this spell book, he receives glimpses of the past, scenes where the same spells were used by the ancient sorcerer who wrote the tome. The visions seem to be trying to convey a message, but what do they mean? There are tons and tons of great adventure hooks in here, and that is an awesome way to introduce some new spells to your magic user that still creates a story effect that involves everyone, because everybody's going to be dealing with these strange and unusual effects that are a result of this tome. So that is from Sharp Swords and Sinister Spells, specifically the addendum. Anyone that watches my channel is not going to be surprised that Dungeon Crawl Classics was included on this list, because I love this game. There are so many great things to cherry pick from here if you're not just going to play it wholesale, which I do recommend doing. But for this particular mechanic, I could have chosen several games, and some of them use this mechanic very similarly before Dungeon Crawl Classics did. But I like the way that Dungeon Crawl Classics implemented it for a fantasy campaign better than the other implementations. And what I'm talking about is the luck stat. So in Dungeon Crawl Classics, whenever you roll up your stats, one of your 6 stats is luck, and it's rolled just like your other stats. So it can be between a 3 and an 18. But it's not just a stat, it's also a resource. You can reduce it permanently to increase a roll so that you can get a better result on a particularly crucial roll. But then it also gives the DM a very nice mechanical advantage to create story tension, in that as the stat goes down, then when you have to roll under luck for different effects, for example, if part of a statue fell and was going to crush a random PC, you might have them all roll luck, and the one that got the furthest under their luck is the safest, and the one that rolled over their luck is going to be the unlucky victim. And that can be used for anything. That was just one example. So it creates a little bit of tension because players want to use the luck to make their rolls, but then at the same time, they know that they may be called upon to roll under their luck, and if they've reduced that stat, that is going to be harder to do. The great use of the roll under that I really like is the roll over the body roll. So at the end of a combat where a player has been knocked unconscious in Dungeon Crawl Classics, after the heroes have recovered their fallen comrade's body, the fallen player makes a luck check. They roll under their luck. And if they don't, whenever they roll over the body, the players find that that hero has died. I know that in most of the more modern RPGs, character death is almost unheard of. Well, it's very common in Dungeon Crawl Classics. And it creates a little bit more I guess, higher stakes when you are playing those games. And it gives the players a little bit more investment in making sure that the risk is worth the rewards. But also on the flip side, eventually everybody's going to use or lose a character under these circumstances, and as a result, they may choose to do things a little bit more heroically, because at least then the character will be remembered for their great deeds. So that was my second list of 5 mechanics that you should be stealing for your OSR or D&D game. I did choose a different filming location today. This is a little bit quieter part of my house, and also shows off some of the bricks from Books, Bricks, and Boards. So if you like the different filming location, let me know down in the comments. If you'd rather me just do the way that I've been doing it, let me know as well. I want to do these videos in a way that is best digestible by you guys. So until next time, this has been Justin from Books, Bricks, and Boards. Good gaming, and God bless.